happy and grateful that I'm financially free, or I feel liberated with my financial freedom. Because what would be the feeling you had if you had it? It would be liberation. It would be freedom. So you would say, you would probably place happy with freedom. I feel free that I don't have this debt. But again, saying that you don't have the debt means that something's going to happen to pay off the debt, and then you still don't have any money. So, you know, you don't focus on the debt, you focus on being financially free, and that automatically eliminates the debt.
We getting money, money, money. When Jameer sharing gems with her getting money, money, money. Getting a line, growing money and getting money, money, money. It's your life, trying to get more life.
Hey, you guys, welcome to this episode of the Get Money Show. I am your girl, Gwen Jameer. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And I have a special guest. We've been talking about getting him on this podcast for a minute, and we finally made it happen. You guys know that I am constantly talking about mindset and how that impacts your finances and everything in your life, really. We just had a really, really great session recently about that on one of the lives that was super highly attended. And I thought, what better time to talk about that with someone who is a master manifester than now. And so we have Sean Hines here. He is the host of, he's the host of Here Nor There here on YouTube. So make sure you guys follow him and check him out. I'll put his link to his YouTube channel here in the show notes so you guys can check it out. But speaking of YouTube channels, when I first came across him, he had like 6,000 followers. Subscribers on YouTube, and it has been less than 3 months, maybe 4 months at the most, and he's already at 15,000, and that is one of his manifestations, right? But beyond that, he has also manifested a lot of money, and you know that's what we talk about here on the Get Money Show. Obviously, the name is very intuitive. Just to kind of run it down, beyond being an Army vet, so thank you for your service. Beyond that, he has done so many things, but professionally, he is a designer. So he has designed graphically beautiful campaigns for some of our favorite household brands like Coca-Cola and Smith & Wesson and Home Depot, Carter's, who else? Volvo, Delta, so forth and so on. So lots of places. Yeah. So if you look at his channel, you will see his graphic ineptness, you know, like he's just so like good at this, and it's just like his channel has his own sort of vibe and energy going on. Unlike a lot of channels, his definitely stands out. So you can definitely see his abilities and his skills there. But from a money standpoint, Sean has manifested $30,000 in like 4 days. And we got to get into how that happened, right?
Yes, indeed.
In addition to that, $100,000 side hustle, not even his main job, right? Just like sitting on the side, chilling, $100,000 just in the bank, right? We love it. $18,000 manifested for his daughter's first semester of college, right? So correct. A lot of us here are parents, right? Y'all know my son is 13. He's not in college yet, but he will be going. And I think about college a lot. I would love to be able to manifest the money for him to just go to college and not have to tap into his college savings fund, right? So we're going to talk about all those things. But beyond money, he's even manifested his dream woman. They're engaged. And this is after a really bad breakup that they had, so indeed. We can talk about all those things. So we're going to get right into it, Sean. So I'm not even going to waste the time. I need to know the story of how this $30,000 got manifested in just 4 days. So walk me through how that happened, and then tell me like the process that others can do to be able to replicate that for themselves.
Yes, definitely. So first of all, manifestation is all about love. Most people get into the manifestation space because they're trying to manifest a previous lover or things of that nature. But when you get into it and you understand that it all works through love, then you can start to open up different pathways through money and all types of things, health and things of that nature, right? So what ends up happening is what you need to do is have a goal. Once you set up a very specific amount, or how you will feel having a very specific amount, then you just set that intention. You could do so through many different ways, through scripting. Some people like to use affirmations. I am a proponent for visualization, visualizing yourself as if you already have it, implying a scene that you already have what you want. Then you set that intention and you let it go. And people are tend to be a little bit afraid of the letting go process. Letting go is just letting go of the need to have it, or better yet, letting go of the fear that you won't have it. So the way that I did the 30,000 is that you're always manifesting through your subconscious mind, right? So your subconscious knows of things that you are not aware of. Your subconscious mind is keeping you alive. It has all your programming in it. Before you even knew your name, it already knew how to walk, how to digest food, things of that nature. The factory settings of being a human being come with all these wonderful things, right? So your subconscious mind, while you're sleeping, after you set your intention, it starts to bring all these things together. So I simply, one night I scripted that I was grateful for having $30,000. And what the subconscious processed that as, we already have $30,000. So it tries to find it some way, shape, or form. So about 4 days later, I heard that we had a crypto boom. This was about back in April, I believe. About 4 days later, I heard we had a crypto boom. And so I saw that I had a certain coin that I bought 3 years ago, and people were saying that it was fluctuating. I went to my account and looked at that coin, and I didn't make any money. But I looked at my balance and saw that it was at $29,934 or something. It turns out that a coin that I bought that was not the coin I was notified, a coin that I bought years ago and forgot about completely, has skyrocketed from $2,000 to $30,000. And so I questioned it at that point because it said 29,000. And as I was questioning it, the ticker changed and it went over 30,000.
Wow.
So that's how manifestation works. It starts to pull all these different resources from things that you forgot about, or people that you forgot about, and then the money magically appears. But it's not really magic. It's just a timing type of thing. So once you set the intention and you release the fear, all of these things come to you.
So, okay. So first of all, I want to go back to you mentioning scripting, right? So
Yes.
for those who don't understand what that might be, explain that. Are you literally writing out like almost like a story of how you want things to play out?
So
or is it like
look at
bullet
scripting
points?
in one sentence. Scripting is journaling as your future self. So those of you that journal right now, continue to do that. But instead of journaling about today, August 8th, 2024, you're journaling about September 8th, 2024, or you're even journaling about August 8th, 2025. You're imagining that you're your future self and you're writing in the present tense as if you already have the things that you want. So that's what scripting is.
Gotcha. Okay, that's super simple.
Yeah.
I have actually been telling the Get Money crew, which is my audience, I've been telling them, it's really important for you to think about the feeling that you have as if you already have it.
Extremely important. Extremely important.
Not
All of
in
us,
the future.
exactly, because the subconscious doesn't understand the future and the past. Consciously, you do. The subconscious only understands now. So when you talk about things I hope to have, I want to have, the subconscious puts those things off into the distant future. Oh, okay, we'll get that in the future. But now what do we have? So you have to speak to your subconscious in the present tense. Yes.
Gotcha. So this is fascinating. Okay, and by the way, and I didn't mention this for those of you who are watching, Sean's entire channel is about manifestation.
Yes.
That's all he talks about. He talks about manifestation, how to make things work for you, how to make things happen really quickly. And we were just talking offline before we got on about how I have manifested something that I really didn't even think was going to happen quite so soon. And I think the beautiful thing about understanding and really like believing in and rooting yourself in manifestation is that you don't always know the when, but it actually doesn't take a long time. So like even with you manifesting the 30K in just 4 days, like that's no time, right? And what we were talking about, which I can't share yet, y'all, so y'all eventually, is that manifested in just maybe a month and a half, so to speak. So talk to me more about like the speed of it, because I think, we all live in this microwave society and we're expecting things to happen, but when we don't see evidence of it, we start to doubt it. And what can that do when we start to doubt?
Definitely. So one exercise that I do with some of my clients is that I ask them to close their eyes and I ask them to answer without thinking about it. I ask them, how long does it take to receive something? So depending on the manifestation, it may take a while. If it's something like a cup of coffee, that could happen today. But if it's something like $1 million, you don't naturally think that it's going to happen tomorrow, right? So typically when I have them perform this exercise, they blurt out the answer. If I say, how long do you think it's going to take to find love? 3 months. That's how long it's going to take. you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the subconscious already has the answer, because essentially what we are manifesting is different versions of ourselves that are already experiencing that. So the process of manifestation is manifesting a different version of yourself. You are transforming to the person that's a millionaire. You are transforming into the person that's already married. So an internal change will shift within you, and then the world will reflect that change to you. So no's become yeses, and lack becomes abundance. So all of it is a transformative within yourself.
Speaking of lack, do you feel like the words hope and wish are rooted in lack?
They are probably the two most important words that you need to get rid of in your vocabulary if you want to manifest appropriately. Hope is not a good word, because hope implies that it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
And wish implies that you don't think it's going to happen, that this is something that's so out of your reach that, you hope that it happens, you wish that it happens. You want to start saying, I already deserve it, I already have it. And these things, in every great religious book, these things are already mentioned. Even in the Bible, it says, pray and give thanks that you already have it and you will receive it. It doesn't say wish, it doesn't say hope. It
Yeah.
says act as if you already have it. And that's what effectively is gratitude. So once you start to give thanks for things that you have yet to see that are invisible, they will become visible.
Gotcha. So is it enough for us to just say things, right? Here's what I mean by that. Like, you'll see somebody say, I don't know, that they want $20,000,
Right.
right?
Right.
And somebody will say, I'm claiming it. And for me,
Right.
it just feels so lack, right? Because it's like,
Yes.
to me, it's like,
Yes.
I'm claiming it. Like, it's almost like you're saying it, like I'm claiming it,
Yeah.
but it may not happen. It probably won't happen, but I'm going to claim
Right.
it. And I'm going to say it out loud in hopes that it does, which is, again, we just talked about hope being a lack word, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's one thing to say something. It's
Right.
another thing to believe it. It's another thing to feel it, right? So how do they
Correct.
get themselves into a position, or how do we get ourselves into a position where we're not just talking about it, but we also like believe it unequivocally that it's already happened, not even that's
Right.
going to happen.
Right.
And then how do we put ourselves into a space where we can actually feel those feelings? So I feel like the feeling part is probably the most crucial.
Exactly. It is the most important, because as human beings, yes, we want to be wealthy. We want to have that home. We want to have that car. But really what you want is the feeling. All of us have everybody's manifesting, whether you know about it or not, the good things and the bad things. All of us have manifested something that was good and we didn't enjoy it. We manifested that job, that dream job, and worked there and hated our boss the first month. We manifested being with that person and then found out we had communication issues. That's because you manifested the thing and not the feeling. So when you manifest, I feel euphoric working at my new job, I feel euphoric, I feel elated driving my new car, that brings the experience along with that thing. So that's number one. And then we talk about like the one of the great teachers I follow, he speaks about the vain repetition of affirmations. And so it's a bit of a nuance, because the subconscious only learns through repetition. That's how you learn how to walk. Practice makes perfect. Or how to walk, how to talk, how to do anything is repetition. So repeating something over and over again can get the job done. But what imprints the subconscious a lot better is attaching emotion to it and visualization. So typically, if you're repeating something over and over again, eventually you have a mental image of what that is. And if you can apply the emotion to that, then it imprints with the subconscious, and then these things start to become attracted to you. And you wake up one day and all of a sudden what you wanted most is right there before you even knew it, because your subconscious is constantly working for you. So emotion is very important, because what you focus on and what you attach your emotions to, it governs what you experience. It's no different than an algorithm on Instagram. Whatever you focus on is what you experience. And when you attach emotion to it, it comes even faster.
So what about the people who are naturally more realists? That's what they would say, right? Like, I'm not, I'm not all about all this woo-woo stuff. I'm a realist, right? And what I see in front of me is what I'm subscribed to. For folks who are like that, I think it's a little bit easier for people who are natural optimists.
Yes.
But for people who are more pessimistic by nature, but don't want to be, what is like a tool or practice or something they can put into place that would help them to kind of get out of that?
One way that I help people get out of that is to understand how we're communicating right now. The internet itself isn't logical. Right now we're talking, you see an image of me, you see my voice. All of this is happening through light rays. It's happening through things that we can't see, but we know that are there. So just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. One other way I try to tell people is that, again, these light rays, radio waves, frequencies, when we listen to the radio, if you listen to your favorite hip hop station right now, these frequencies existed for millennia. They've always been there, but yet we didn't know about them in the medieval times, in the ancient Egyptian period, in the Sumerian period. We just discovered these things, 200 years ago. So again, if we go back 300-400 years and say, hey, we're going to be able to talk to people through screens 1,000 miles away, the realists would deny it. They would say, oh, that's crazy. That's magic. Actually, negative things would be done to you if you said something like that. I think even with astrology, they threw Galileo in jail because he started to point out that that all the other planets don't revolve around the earth, that we revolve around the sun. So just because you can't see it and we don't have the technology to prove it right now, and that's catching up very rapidly, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So what I tell people is just test it and see. It doesn't take any money, it doesn't cost any time. Just test it and see. Put a seed down, visualize it, write something down, allow it to happen, and see what happens. And then once it happens, then people will start to believe in themselves.
Got you. So it sounds like it's a lot of just belief in self.
It's all belief in self. Everything's coming through you. It's all belief in self.
So you talk a lot about self-concept,
yes,
right? So are those one and the same?
Yes. Self-concept is how you see yourself, how you see the world, and how you see your place in the world. So your self-concept is basically formed as soon as you hit the world. As soon as your mother births you, your self-concept is being formed, and you're being programmed, no different from a computer. You're being programmed by the people you love, your family, your friends. And this is in the first 7 years of life. Your parents, your auntie, your grandmama, those people that are around you are programming you with their beliefs, and that develops your self-concept. And then you move forward with this concept of self and how you fit in the world. And some people have a positive self-concept from their upbringing, and some people have a negative self-concept. But it all is malleable, and it all can change, and you have the power to change it.
That's so fascinating. And I know this to be true. So I gave an example of this, and I haven't even shared this with you before, Sean, but I shared this just a few days ago when I did a live here. We were talking about mindset when it comes to money, but it got real deep and evolved beyond money. And so we were talking about just how powerful our brains are, that we have no clue how much control that we have over our lives. So I shared the story about how when I was in college, I was talking to my roommate, and I was telling her that because all the women in my family have thyroid issues, I was naturally going to have thyroid issues as well. And I said that to her, and I used to talk about it all the time. Like, yeah, it's just a matter of time till I get thyroid issues. And fast forward about a year or so, year and a half, lo and behold, what I said came true, right? But I didn't attribute it to my conversation and my beliefs. I attributed to like, well, this is just in my family history.
Exactly.
Well, this is what it is. So I didn't make the connection that I had the control over that. And so I'm dealing with thyroid issues. And not only did I have my mother and my sister had hypothyroidism, which is a slowing down of the thyroid. I had hyper, which is a speeding up. And at first I was like eating whatever I wanted to, and I was losing all this weight. And it was great at first until I started to lose too much weight. And then it was like, wait a minute, you're getting a little like bobblehead. Yeah, bobblehead looking over here. This is crazy. And on top of that, I also ended up getting Graves' disease, which is related to that. So, for those who don't know, like you can get Graves' disease and your eyes will bulge kind of like that or whatever. That's how people look who have Graves' disease. My mom was freaking out. She's a nervous wreck. She's like, oh my God, my daughter has this, da, 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 da.
Oh man.
She ended up finding me like one of the best doctors in Ohio, which is where I'm originally from. And he had me on this medication. Well, I ended up being recruited by Ford to work at the headquarters in marketing. So I moved from Cleveland to Detroit. That's how I got to Detroit. And I no longer had that doctor, right? So because he's in Ohio. So I get to Michigan and I'm working in marketing, super high level job, had just graduated from grad school, and I get married and I get pregnant. And when I'm pregnant, the doctor is telling me, you got to make a decision because you can't continue taking this medication and stay pregnant. Like you got to either get rid of the medication and risk your thyroid, or you got to get rid of the baby. And that's a really hard decision to have to make, right? Like I want to live and be healthy, but I don't want to, abort my child. So around that time, I had just seen The Secret. And in The Secret, there's this part where they talk about health. And there's this woman who she's basically talking about how she cured her cancer by repeating over and over, "Thank you for my healing."
Yes.
And I was just like, I don't got nothing to lose. I might as well try it out. Right. And so at that point, I had 2 or 3 months between the time that, I was 6 weeks pregnant, went to the doctor, found out I was pregnant. And then also at that time found out that I was going to have to make this really tough life decision. And they said, by the time you get to like 2.5, 3 months, you're going to have to decide what you're going to do. And I was like, okay, so I got some time here. Let me just try this in the meantime, right? Because I guess whatever the medication was, it would start to harm the baby after 3 months, right? So I'm taking the medicine still, but I'm saying, thank you for my healing. I'm so happy and grateful now that my body is healed. I'm so excited that I'm in fantastic health, A1 health. My body is working the way it's supposed to, right? Fast forward 2-3 months, I go to the doctor. All my thyroid levels are completely normal. I'm thinking like, well, maybe this is a fluke, right? let me get a second opinion, right? Because I know that stuff ain't work that fast, right? So go to another doctor. Thyroid levels completely normal. You don't need to take the medicine. Congratulations on your pregnancy. You're having a boy, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh! And that was my son's 13 now, as of the making of this video. I haven't taken a single thyroid medication since then.
There you go.
Clearly my eyes are good, right?
Yes.
In fact, when it came to the thyroid, when it came to the Graves' disease, when I first found out that I had it, it slowly kind of like protrudes your eyeballs. And I had to go to a specialist to have my eyes measured every so many months. Well, they were starting to kind of start coming out. But after, thank you for my healing, thank you for my healthy body, all that stuff, they started to retract. And they went back into place like they were supposed to be.
Yes.
And there's no other thing that I did other than
that's all it takes.
Be grateful for my healing. And it still runs in my family. All the women have it.
Yes.
Except for me.
There was a study done in Germany. I can't quite think of the name of the physician that did this, but he basically took about 20 patients and they performed surgery on all 20 patients who had some type of knee issue, some type of knee injury. I forget the name eludes me right now, but it's a typical injury that NBA players get. ACL injury, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
So he took 10 of them and he performed the surgery on 10 of them. He took the other 10 and just made the incision and did not repair it. He just made the incision. So they believed that they had the surgery.
Okay.
At the end of the study, all 20 had a full recovery. So there's the power of the subconscious mind. If you believe that you are healed, it will heal itself. So it doesn't mean stop taking medication and stuff like that. Right. People say that,
right?
But just test it and see. Give your mind a chance. The first thing you said was, "I have nothing to lose," and you don't. Right. You visualize yourself being better. You visualize somebody else being better. You start to give gratitude that you already have it, and the subconscious will abide.
Gotcha. Yeah. So that's when I think of like, if there's any indication in my life that it works, like that was it, right?
Yes. And we all have these breakthroughs. We all have these moments to where our back is against the wall effectively, and we have to go 100% into this and try it. And that's typically when you start to get into this space. Yeah. And that's pretty much how Here Nor There was created. My back was against the wall last year after a really bad breakup, after a really bad couple months financially, and even my father was in negative health. And I said, hey, I'm going to go 100%. And if this works, I'll start a YouTube channel. And here we are.
Here we are. $15,000 people later, as of right now, right?
16,000. Let's cross over 16 last
16. My bad. Let me I give you all your flowers.
We getting there. Thank you. We getting
It'll be 100,000 by the time this gets posted.
Yeah. Let's do
it. So I have a couple questions.
Yeah, sure.
One, can you manifest for other people?
Yes. In fact, you should manifest for other people. In fact, to strengthen your manifestation muscle, you should be manifesting for other people. Yes. I mentioned my father. That's probably my biggest manifestation. He had a cancer diagnosis last year. Okay. And after a very small, well, I wouldn't say small, but after a very quick procedure to remove part of his kidney, full recovery. And he's probably in better condition than he was before going into the surgery. So, but not just health things. Health is first, because without health, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Without health, it doesn't matter if you have the relationship. So health first, then the bag, and then the love.
Right.
And so, but if you want to manifest your friend being in a better relationship and finding the love of her life, see her as that. So
Mhm.
I tell people to strengthen your own faith. Don't just manifest a cup of coffee in a parking space. You'll be able to do that. Those are what I call spiritual potato chips. You'll do that and you'll still be hungry.
Mhm.
Manifest with somebody else. See them as you want them to be seen to you and watch it happen. And yes, you can definitely do that and you should.
So is it literally the same process? Is it just like visualizing and maybe saying affirmations, or is it like something that, because it's not our own subconscious, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's not, it's our subconscious not working for us. It's like working for someone else. So how do we,
Right.
and here's the thing, here, this is probably another good question. What if I'm manifesting for someone, but they don't believe that they can have it?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Really?
So yeah, it doesn't matter. But what I will say for the person that's doing the manifesting is that you have to limit how many times that person says it's not going to happen. So basically, you have to distance yourself just a little bit.
Okay.
One of the teachers that I follow is a man named Neville Goddard. He actually, he's deceased. He lived over 100 years ago. But his teacher was an Ethiopian man named Abdullah. And he described how it worked. He wanted to go back to his native homeland of Barbados. He was a British citizen of Barbados. And this was in 1930s New York. And Abdullah was a dark-skinned black man. And Neville, by his account, said Abdullah wasn't experiencing segregation. He could go anywhere and sit in the bottom level of movie theater and things of that nature. So he learned from him about self-concept and manifestation. So when he was trying to get back to Barbados, Neville, he remarked that Abdullah kept slamming the door in his face and he wouldn't talk to him about his doubts about he can't get to Barbados. A couple months later, he ended up manifesting the ship tickets to get back. And that's how he learned not only about how to manifest for himself, but when other people are manifesting for you, you have to sometimes distance yourself from them if they can't stop complaining, basically.
Gotcha.
So their belief doesn't matter, but your belief does. So sometimes you have to kind of restrict yourself in love and compassion so you can stay in the proper state of mind to manifest for them.
Got you. Okay. So we can manifest for our children or our parents or our siblings or whomever.
Yes, definitely so. I mean, you just gave the example of my tuition circumstances with my daughter, because she's going to very expensive private school, art school, and that happened that way as well. I envisioned her getting the money that she needed.
Okay, so you were visualizing it for her, not for yourself to be able to pay for her, but for her to be able to pay for herself.
No, actually, the specific affirmation that I used was, I'm grateful that her tuition is fully paid for.
Okay.
So when you do it like that, when you make it general like that, you open up all these infinite ways that it can happen. I was thinking I'm going to come into some type of money to be able to pay it. What ended up happening was her grandfather on her side, I still don't know how he came up with the money. He just came into a settlement and all of a sudden he started buying cars and he said, hey, let me know how much she needs. I'm paying for the first semester.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I'm like, well, it's happened. So manifestation is all about love. So when you put love out there, especially if you're doing it for the benefit of somebody else, which is the purest form of love you could probably do, then all of these things start, this network that we're all connected to starts to work in your favor and the money appears. But if you leave it open, it will appear in ways you can never imagine.
What if you had someone who you did not like?
Yes.
Can you manifest for them, even though you have negative feelings about them? So let's say, I'm gonna give you an example.
Yeah.
This is a little bit probably too much information. But when I worked in corporate, it was a long time ago, over 11, 12 years ago. There was this woman who worked in the New York office. I worked at Ford in Detroit, and she worked in the New York office. And this lady did not like me. We never met. I think I was just new and I was young, and she was like, she don't deserve to be here. I don't know what her issue was with me. But every time I would say anything, per my last email, like she always had some negative, comment.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is wrong with this lady? And I kid you not, I was like, she needs to have sex. I was like, and like, I'm not kidding. I was like, I would say my prayers and I'm like, God, please send her a man. Because she is too uptight. Like she needs to release some stuff. And I don't know what happened, but I would say a few weeks later, like it was like a whole different person. Maybe she got some. I don't know. But it was just like,
maybe
she was like, I'm not gonna say she was like super nice, but it was like the nasty nice thing wasn't happening anymore. It was just like she was just normal after that.
Right.
Whereas for months she had been so rude to me for literally no reason. Yeah. And I don't know if she literally got some or something else happened, but I feel like I kind of manifested that to occur.
Yeah, you probably did. You probably did. And the thing about that is that this is why I say love is important and compassion, because what if you found out the reason why she was acting nasty like that is because she had a relative that was passing away from cancer and she was having a hard time dealing with it? It would change your whole perspective of it.
Sure.
So instead of, because, what if it could have been, what if she already had a man and he's not treating her right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So instead, you just imagine yourself in a condition to where you and her get along. So instead, you would do like, imagine a scene where you guys are having lunch together, which implies that you guys are getting along. Yeah. Or imagine a scene of a nice email coming through. And then the universe will handle whatever it needs to happen for her to get to that point to where you guys are, So in this case, you're probably right. She probably just need to get something. And she did.
Right,
but in other cases, just imagine yourself already getting along with this person, and then things will happen for you to do so. Or you can imagine the person getting a promotion somewhere, and then they end up having to leave because they got a promotion somewhere. So you're still giving them something positive, Right. But typically, you just imagine things going well between you guys, and it'll open up all these different ways for you to feel that way.
Gotcha. So that lends me to a question, though. So you said, instead of like, even with your daughter, right? You weren't thinking about, I hope she doesn't end up with student loan debt. You were saying, I hope that, or not hope, but I'm thankful that she has her tuition paid for. Yeah. Right. So I think that's an important distinction. Like, you're not focusing on the problem, you're focusing on, like, I guess, the outcome of what you want. So rather than saying, like, I'm no longer in debt, right? Or I'm debt free, because you're still focusing on the debt.
Because you could be in debt, you could not be in debt and still don't have any money.
Right. So could you say, I am happy and grateful for being financially free? Like, what would you say?
I feel I would basically say I feel happy and grateful that I'm financially free, or I feel liberated with my financial freedom. Because what would be the feeling you had if you had it? It would be liberation, it would be freedom. So you would say you would probably place happy with freedom. I feel free that I don't have this debt. But again, saying that you don't have the debt means that something's going to happen to pay off the debt, and then you still don't have any money. So, you don't focus on the debt, you focus on being financially free, and that automatically eliminates the debt.
Got you. And I've heard you also say, encourage people to use like stronger words than just happy.
Yes.
Right. So like exuberant and joyful and
elated, sublime. That's one of my favorite words. And just look these words up, and they being very, like, for one, I use people love to use the word love. I just use it there. I want somebody to love me. And I say, well, you want somebody to adore you, because adoration is love plus respect. We all have people in our lives, or have had people in our lives that we love, but we didn't respect.
Yes.
So you want both, and adoration pretty much compresses both of those emotions. So like I said, elated, ecstatic, euphoric, use these words in your affirmations as you're planning them out, and watch the magic happen.
Okay. So you also mentioned health, then the bag, then love.
Yes.
And I feel like most people are, when they think about manifestation, you've said even, they always want to manifest a person.
Right.
And you're like, well, y'all want no money? Like, like, why are you not asking to manifest money?
Y'all want the bag? Yeah. So it's a societal thing. And it's not just, I would say, modern day society, because I just literally got off of a call with one of my clients in Hong Kong. So I speak to people of different genders and age groups and sexualities in different countries and ethnicities all the time. So what I've seen across the board in most modern day countries is basically that there's a large focus on things outside of you. So if I get the love, then I'll feel good. If I get the money, then I'll feel good. When really you have to generate the feeling first, and then these things will come to you. And as you pointed out, if you have the $1 million home, if you have the Ferrari, if you have the cyber truck, and then you have the beautiful woman or the handsome man, but you're in chronic health issues, you're in the hospital every month, then you can't even enjoy those things. So health comes first, then money to do something with the people that you have, the people you love, and to be able to provide for them, and to be able to give them freedom through money, and then the love. That's my pillars right there.
Got you. In that order. I like that.
In that order. Yeah.
So what do you say? How do you feel about religion as it relates to this? Because I feel like some people will be a lot of times when people don't understand something, they will automatically attribute it to being like, not of God. And
Right.
so I would love for you to speak on that for those who are watching. Where is this in relation to whatever their belief might be?
Yeah. So the problem with religion is that a lot of people depend on other people to interpret it for them. I started to learn the most about manifestation when I actually read the Bible for myself, not listening to somebody else's interpretation about the Bible. And in there, the Bible is speaking about meditation. It's speaking about what's happening with the fluids in your body when you reach enlightenment. Is speaking about go to the Father in secret and you'll be rewarded openly. That's just like you said, when you're manifesting something, don't tell anybody. Go to the Father in secret and you'll be rewarded openly. All these things in the Bible, all the parables that Jesus talked about was about enlightenment. It wasn't about, it was in alignment with what we're saying. And in fact, one of the teachers I follow the most, Neville Goddard, he broke down the Bible, how it was supposed to be interpreted. And when you go back and you read it with a new lens, now everything makes sense. And then also, a lot of the books of the Bible were written hundreds of years, if not thousands of years after Christ lived. So then you have to just like really educate yourself on that. And then moving into the Quran, I just had a conversation with one of my clients that practice Islam. Same thing. The Quran has these same things in it. Buddhism in and of itself is telling you that reality isn't real, that it's just it's shaped off your beliefs. So when you change the inside, you change the outsides and you reach enlightenment. So all the great books are saying the same thing, just for different audiences.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm so glad that you spoke on that, because I feel like most people will, subscribe to it, but then there's always, a little bit of a barrier sometimes when people are like, well, that's not.
Well, most religions, I grew up Southern Baptist, and everything was about, well, if you don't have it, God doesn't want you to have it. You'll get it when you die. And the purpose of your consciousness is to have it here, heaven on earth. And so you become enlightened so you can start to draw in all these experiences and enjoy your life here now, not in the next realm.
So are you suggesting that the phrase, if it's meant to be, it'll be, is not necessarily the case? Because
no, it's the case if you believe. It's the case if you believe that.
Okay.
If you believe that, then that will be the case. Just like you said about your health, the issue with thyroid, the belief of it made it true. So if you believe that, then it will be. Yeah.
Got you. So if you believe that you have complete autonomy in how your life is shaped,
right, then you'll begin the journey to learn that and to master it yourself. Yeah. So as you pointed out, it's your thoughts. Everybody who's watching this show right now, if you had something negative happen to you, you can go back and connect the dots and think about how you were ruminating on the worst case scenario. I have a lot of wonderful women in my life, friends, colleagues, and I've heard about their dating lives. And sometimes they meet an amazing man who they manifest an amazing man who's treating them exactly how they want to be treated. And the first thing they say is, he's amazing, but I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. And then the shoe drops and they're like, see? And I'm like, no, you're creating this through your own beliefs, through your own word. The word is your wand. Yeah. So you have to be very careful of not only what you're saying and what you're believing, but also what you're watching. We practice something called a mental diet, to where you're not constantly absorbing. A mental diet is no different from a physical diet. If you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to trim up and get a six-pack or whatever, you're not really eating the Chick-fil-A and the milkshakes and all that. You go on a diet, right?
Right.
A mental diet is the same thing. So if you're trying to manifest love, you shouldn't be watching Love is Blind. You shouldn't be watching dating shows, because those shows are the exact opposite of it. They're showing the dating process and it's creating limiting beliefs. Or better yet, people who fall asleep to true crime. Like, how can you're falling asleep to that's become a big thing. And we can get into that later about the importance of the 5 minutes before you go to sleep. Yeah. But when you're falling asleep to something like that, and then you wake up and you don't trust people because you've been listening to, murder mysteries and stuff as you go into sleep. Then you have to be very careful about because the subconscious is always listening. It's a recorder. Like I said, you knew how to walk, talk, do a bunch of stuff before you knew your name. It's a recorder. It's recording everything and it's spitting it back out for you to experience. So you have to be very careful about what you're absorbing.
Yeah, I think, and to your point earlier about the algorithm analogy, I've actually used that prior to me even hearing you say it. I've been telling people, like, I feel like what we experience in life is very much like an Instagram or TikTok or Facebook algorithm. Like, you click on it, you'll get more of it. So
exactly like it.
so everybody here is very familiar with, I'm super transparent. Like I went through this
Yeah.
really bad breakup. They all know about it.
Right. Right.
And when I was going through it, of course I was getting all these posts about narcissists and
Oh, don't get me started
you
on that.
know,
We're gonna be here for
narcissism
2 hours on that one.
and how, you know, this is what narcissists do, and just validation for things that I was seeing in that relationship.
Right.
But it made me feel good in the moment because I'm like, oh, I'm not crazy. Like this is actually what was happening, right?
Right.
So it kind of gave me this bit of validation. But once I got to a point where I was like, I don't want this. Like I don't want, and I felt like I was attracting narcissists, but it's because that's all I kept getting in my feed. But I had become very aware of how they move. So I was able to to exit what could have, you know, a potential relationship with those people very quickly.
Right.
But it was still like, I'm telling myself, all I attract is narcissists, all I attract is narcissists. Yep. And I'm still always just attracting narcissists. I'm like, what is wrong with me? What am I doing that I need to change to stop attracting people?
I can go on about the narcissism all day. And here's the thing about the narcissism. I looked it up. I need to update my information, but I believe only 3% of the adults in this country are diagnosed as narcissists. So it is actually really hard to attract a narcissist. And what we're attracting is people with narcissistic traits. And we all have that. So if you believe that I'm going to attract a narcissist, or you bringing that in through your focus, then you're attracting people who are normal people, but they're going to show you narcissism because that's what you believe you need to see because you're focusing on it so much. So I've seen people draw in somebody who has no narcissistic tendencies, and they'll act that way with that person, and then they'll act a completely different way with other people. And that's the power of self-concept, is that if you focus on it, you're going to draw in that experience, whether that person is that or not.
Yeah. So then after I decided, you know what, well, Gwen, you got to change something about you, right? Like you've got to change what it is that you're seeing. My mother used to always say, be careful what you allow into your ear gates and your eye gates.
Yes.
And she used to say that to me when I was like little. Yes. And, you know, I'm like 6. I'm like, what? You know, but, as an adult, I completely understand it. And I started to be conscious of what I was clicking on, right? Yes. And so things would come onto my timeline and I would just stop clicking on them. Right. No matter how intriguing the headline was or the screenshot that they had at the beginning, I'd be like, I'm not going to click on it because I don't want that for my life.
Smart.
I want love. I want joy. I want adoration. I want peace and ease in my relationships. And so it was interesting how when I decided that, I started to receive more posts about like people who have been married for like 45 years and were still like deeply in love.
There you go.
Just like I was no longer getting those sorts of things. So I started actively and intentionally clicking on those so I would get more of them. So it would then be in my subconscious, right? Mm-hmm. And it was just very interesting how that moved. And I felt like once, like the feeling I even had, this innate feeling about relationships, once my eye gates were now filled with what I wanted versus what I didn't want. Because we as humans, I think we tend to focus on the negative, right? We focus on what we don't want. And it was like crazy how things just started to shift. And so it's been really interesting seeing that from that perspective and how it completely relates. And I've obviously seen it happen in my own life, right? So it's like interesting seeing how the correlation between what we look at, you know, because we're always on our phones, really impact what it is that we experience in real life.
Yeah, it's fascinating and surreal. And I've been probably in this way of thinking for about 5 years now. And it still baffles me sometimes when things come to fruition. And it is simple as that. Your programming, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy some ratchet stuff every now and then. It's just that you just don't perpetually watch it over and over again. You're not, because again, repetition, the subconscious is like, oh, okay, cool. That's what we want to experience. That's what life is about. Cool. I'll draw that to you. So just get back on your square and get back into the positivity. And like you said, if you're focusing on a relationship, then you need to be absorbing more positive things that are showing. Hang out with married couples. You know, watch more of those Korean dramas where they always fall in love, where they always get the girl at the end or get the guy at the end. And just really immerse yourself into those things. And then your reality will curate itself to bring those things to you.
Gotcha. So how do you, let me back up. I've heard you talk about revision before.
Yeah.
And now I'm very familiar with manifestation, right? I feel very lucky that I grew up with a mom who I feel like was kind of ahead of her time for that time. And this is the 80s and 90s, right? She
Mm-hmm.
was into this manifestation stuff, right? She was
Mm-hmm.
always like,
Mm-hmm.
be careful what you say. When I was really, really little, I used to be like, I'm never getting married. I'm never having any kids. Like, I was like a kid. She's like, don't say that.
Yeah.
Because you might want that one day.
Right.
And if you put that out, then that's what's not going to happen. Right.
Right. Right.
And so she used to always, she had me listen to subliminals when I was a little kid. Like she would
Yes.
get mad at me if I forgot to turn them on.
Yeah.
So at nighttime, she had this, like, she called them sublimium tapes, which is not how you said it, but she's called them sublimium tapes.
Right.
And she would order the tape, like the cassette, from this guy named Jonathan Parker, and he was really into that. And they would just play at night. You are brilliant, you are smart, you are a genius, you can overcome anything, nothing stands in your way. That sort of stuff will play throughout my whole childhood.
Yeah.
And I feel like my self-concept of who I was as an academic child
Yes.
was pretty much fueled, or really to do anything, even as an adult, was fueled by these thoughts that just kept being permeated into my brain. So I grew up feeling kind of unstoppable, right? Feeling like I could do anything. And even if I did do something and it didn't work out, that was okay. That was just that situation. That wasn't that wasn't the trajectory of my life. But unfortunately, most people don't have that experience, right?
No. And what you just described goes all the way back to the very beginning of the interview. Your mother programmed you for success.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing right now, most people can't do. It's not that easy to make content, to get in front of a camera and speak to it with confidence and authority and charisma. And you're doing that now. And that is the traits that your mother put into you. All the things you named, you are that now. Mm-hmm. So that's why you're able to do that. And you didn't shy away from it when it came time to do it. Mm-hmm. So it goes back to programming. What was going on in your life between 0 to 7? And then you can figure out why you're having problems in life, but also release them. And when we figure these things out, we don't go back. You're a parent, I'm a parent. We don't go back and, make our parents try to apologize and things. That none of that's necessary. You just understand that they did the best they could do with what they had. And now it's up to you to change it if you want to.
So for those of us who have not had that experience, right? You talk a lot about revision and revising things, certain instances in your life, no matter how far back they were, to see a different outcome in the future. And I know you said before, and I've watched your videos, and you said, revision, it kind of works a little too well, right? It works really, really
it's a little too powerful.
And I've done it twice since I've seen your videos. Bruh.
Yeah, it's a little bit trippy. I break it out every now and then. It's
like that really worked. Like, oh my gosh, right? So explain to them revision and how they can apply it to their lives, especially when it comes to finances.
Yeah. So, okay, with finances, for instance, if you grew up pretty much in poverty, you grew up in lack and things of that nature, what's holding you back from experiencing a more abundant present and a more abundant future is your beliefs of the past. But it's your beliefs, and memories are very fluid. Memories aren't actually tangible. It's how you feel about the past. People can have a different memory of the same event and have a completely different present because of that. So what you're doing with revision is you're changing how you feel about the past by remembering it differently. And when you do that, you're actually doing an act of forgiveness. You're forgiving the past. You're forgiving yourself for the mistakes you made. You're forgiving yourself for what you were allowed to experience. You're forgiving whoever hurt you because you're seeing it differently. And when you change how you feel about it, then you can release those negative emotions that are holding you back from financial abundance.
So how do they revise? What is the process for revision?
So revision is strictly through visualization. You can't affirm in this. You can script it. But basically, you go back to the event. You go back to whatever the pivotal moment was and you change it. So you're changing the outcome. So you don't go back and revise your old childhood. You go back and change certain aspects of it that are burned into your memory. So if you remember I'll be transparent and give one of mine. So I was in the military, and when I had to leave for the first Iraq war, my family supported me, but people outside my family didn't. And that gave me a sense of abandonment moving forward in my life. I kept thinking that people would leave me when I needed them, outside of my family, that is. So I went back and revised that those people were there. So it didn't actually bring those people back into my life, but it allowed me to release these feelings of abandonment that would keep me from having really good relationships in the present, because I was always protecting myself because I felt like if I invested too much, they would abandon me. So the subconscious is really tricky. Gotcha. It's very subtle. But when you change some of those beliefs, it'll move you forward. So again, if you grew up in poverty, if you grew up in lack, you change it and imagine that you didn't, that you went to the school that you wanted to, that you had the car that you wanted to, that you had all the Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that stuff back in the day. And then it'll change how you feel about yourself now, and it'll release you into different paths for the future.
Okay, so that sounds like a very broad like thing,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're envisioning that your childhood was completely different than more idealistic than it was, right? Like how does that translate into current and future? Because I feel like when I've revised, it's been a specific topic more as an adult, right? And I've seen something, I didn't want it to happen that way, and I've revised it, and then the outcome later on in real life is as if that never even happened.
Yeah.
But that's more specific to a moment.
Right.
Rather than what you were talking about.
It's a little bit more. So when the moments, that's correct. You just revise the outcome. So if you experience somebody telling you no when you wanted a yes, you imagine them telling you no. You imagine them telling you yes, and then you allow it to happen. You don't go and start trying to make things happen on your own. That's the problem with most people manifesting. They try to take action, and you're not supposed to take action. You just allow it to happen. Now, when we're going back into more deeper things like changing past events and things of that nature, again, programming. If you really think about it, whatever belief you have, and this is when I talk to some of my clients, whatever belief you have, you can remember what gave you that belief. So if you have a belief that, oh, things always don't work out for me financially, you can go back and remember that time you were supposed to get a check and you didn't, or that time you was promised Christmas presents and you weren't. And that created that belief of lack. It's always go back to a specific moment. When I talk to my clients, when they actually think about it, they can figure out what that specific moment was when they were 7 years old. And then they go back and reimagine it. And that has a ripple effect, because effectively we're dealing with quantum physics here, and time is very fluid. And when you're dealing with different dimensions of time, time isn't the same in the next dimension, the fourth dimension. We live in the third dimension. It's not the same as it is there. It's we look at time as past, present, future. And in other levels of existence, it's a lake. It's all happening everywhere, all at once. There was a movie that won several Oscars, and it was called Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that movie was explaining that all this stuff is happening at once. So once you realize that ripple effect, imagine that time is a lake and you're standing in a lake, and you change that memory, and that ripple goes out, like you dropped a stone, like you dropped a pebble in the water. That ripple effect goes out and changes everything. So it has I say it's very loopy, it's very trippy, it's very surreal, because if you use it for one little moment, you will see that moment change. Like you said, you still remember the moment, but the outcome changed to something that's more favorable to you. But when you go back and change something from 15 years ago, it's gonna have more of a cascading effect by the time that ripple turns into a wave.
Yeah, I'll give an example of something that I used recently. The first time I came across you talking about revision. So I live where I live. I live in a house in the suburbs, right? And so like the backyards are kind of connected, and I like it like that because everybody's backyard kind of flows into each other, and it just makes it feel very expansive, you know?
Exactly.
It's just it's wonderful to be outside in the back and all that sort of stuff. So this house next to me was, it was the person who had been there for 30, 40 years, moved away. Somebody bought it, flipped the house, and sold it to this new couple.
Yeah.
So young couple, they move in. Everything's great. They decide that they want to put a fence up because they got a dog. And I'm like, oh no, like you can't put a fence up. You're going to mess up my view, you know? And so they came over and they asked me like, hey, you know, based upon the subdivision rules and the city rules, you know, we need to get your, you know, I guess approval, if you will, to put the fence on your property line.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't want a fence. Sorry, you know. I mean, I hate that we're like, this is our first meeting.
Yeah.
I don't want this fence here. And I told them why. You know, it's a pretty lightly bantered conversation.
Right.
But they're like, yeah, we have a dog, and unfortunately, you know, we have to do it for the dog. And I'm like, I get it. Now, the rules of the sub and the city are that they can still put up the fence. It just can't be on my property line, which means that they have to move it in like 2 feet in or something like that. And so I was like, well, in my mind, I'm like, I don't want that either. Like, I don't want, whether it's on my line or 3 feet or what, I don't want the fence because it's going to mess up the expansiveness of the yard I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah.
Because I've had this vision of like my son, when he was little, I moved in this house when he was 6 months, and he used to be in the backyard playing. And I got this vision of my grandchildren coming and them playing. You gonna mess all that up,
Yeah.
So I went in my
Yeah.
backyard and I literally revised the conversation. And
Yeah.
I was just like, they came in my vision. It was like I just sat there and I just had my eyes closed. I just thought about, instead of them saying, well, we're going to move forward with this fence, I thought about them saying, we just decided that we're not going to do this. We're not going to put up the fence. Right. That was it. It wasn't like why. It wasn't a deep conversation. In my mind, it was just like, we made a decision. We're not going to put up the fence.
Yeah.
And that was toward the beginning of the summer. And I just saw the stakes for the fence get removed like a couple of days ago.
There you
and
go.
I'm like,
there you go.
Like, no.
So what ends up happening when you imagine that, you set in like a domino effect of a reason for them. And I'm guarantee you, if you were to speak to them, the reason why the fence didn't go up was because you said no. Something happened on their end to be like, hey, we don't need to do this. So when you manifest from a place like that and you allow it to happen, then it will happen in a way that everybody's satisfied. You're not taking away from them. They found a very good reason to why not to do that didn't have anything to do with your answer, because you did it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't know if they're gonna put up an invisible. I'm okay with an invisible fence. I just don't want
it might be that. The outcome is gonna be your view is not gonna get ruined.
Right. Yeah. So I was very happy. So that was the first time I had a revision come into reality. Yeah. And I was like, that actually
you should, you should use revision every day. If you had a bad day, revise it. That was a good day. If you had a good day, revise it. It was a great day. You should use it for everything and get used to build that muscle up, because the brain is just like any other muscle in your body. The more you use it, the better you get at it and the faster things start coming. But if you only use it to manifest that large sum of money, or you only use it to manifest a relationship, but you're not using it for all these little things, like you said, the yard and things of that nature, then it's not going to be that effective.
Okay. So let's talk about like the tools to put these things into place, right? So visualization, affirmations, subliminals, things like that. Yes. And then talk to me also, you mentioned earlier the 5 minutes before you go to bed.
Yes. So let's start with the 5 minutes before you go to bed. Excuse me.
Okay.
So basically, your subconscious, your brain is entering into a theta state. I believe it's theta when you're going to sleep, and it's alpha when you're waking up.
Okay.
In these theta states, the subconscious is actually becoming more malleable, is becoming more accessible. The consciousness, your conscious mind, the one you're using right now to watch this video and do everything else you're doing today, that goes to sleep. Your subconscious is still awake because it's keeping you alive. And while it's awake, it's absorbing information, and also it's moving all the chess pieces around the board for what you're getting ready to experience. So if the last 5 minutes of the day, you're falling asleep to random YouTube videos and things of that nature, then you're leaving your subconscious open to whatever is influenced by what it hears. So there was a lot of wisdom in the Black community, especially up where you're at, and especially down here in the South, where I was always told that you shouldn't go to bed angry. You shouldn't go to bed angry with your spouse. And the reason why is when you carry in negative feelings into sleep, you're going to start manifesting some really nasty stuff. So your state of mind before you go to sleep is very important. So if you feel that with abundance, if you feel that with money affirmations, if you feel that with self-concept affirmations, then you will wake up and you'll start to see these seeds that you planted at night will start to harvest throughout the days, weeks, and months to come. So that 5 minutes is very crucial as you're starting to fall asleep. So put the phone down and think about what you want to experience, or bring the phone back up and start playing some affirmations and go to sleep. But don't fall asleep watching like TV shows or just random stuff, because it's actually you leaving yourself open to be programmed with something you probably don't want to experience.
Gotcha. Okay, so I never knew.
There's some other questions in there. That was the first one. What were the other ones you wanted?
Yeah, well, I never knew that I never knew that was the reason why you weren't supposed to go to bed angry with your partner. I thought you weren't supposed to go to bed angry because you didn't know if they were going to wake up the next day, and you would have had a bad feeling that they passed away and your last conversation was angry.
That is actually possible. I had a conversation with one of my best clients, and I'm not going to say her name for privacy purposes, but that's what happened to her. Her husband didn't wake up one day. So that is actually true. That can happen. So again, if you went into sleeping like that, from a moral standpoint, if you went into sleeping like that, that's something that's really hard to forgive yourself of. But also when we're speaking about manifesting, especially manifesting money, fall asleep thinking about wealth, fall asleep thinking about what you want to experience. There is a video floating around Kobe Bryant before he passed, and he spoke about he fell asleep as a kid playing in the Laker uniform, feeling the sweat on his skin, dropping 100 points in back then the forum. Now it's the crypto.com arena, I think. He imagined himself these things, and then he ended up playing for the Lakers and being one of the best basketball players of all time. He fell asleep every night imagining that what he would become. So it's a very powerful thing.
And didn't he actually envision that he was actually playing for the Lakers too?
Yeah, he envisioned that he's playing for the Lakers. It's if you just type it on YouTube, it's there. It's like 5 different versions of it. He was at a conference and he talked about visualization.
Yeah.
And I recently did a video on my channel specifically about visualization. And in that, I named several people: Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Muhammad Ali, all of these men, not just athletes, but entrepreneurs and men that shaped the way we live life. They did so in their imagination before it came to fruition. Even Albert Einstein, he has several quotes about using your imagination. I think one of them, to paraphrase it, is imagination is basically I can't think of it now, but basically imagination is where you start to have create all these experiences that you're going to live through. So all this information is out there. All these great people that changed our society, he did so through their imagination first and then materialized it, because everything is a manifestation.
Yeah.
Somebody thought of the table that I'm sitting at, thought about how it was going to look, thought about what color it was going to be before they created it. So manifestation isn't just drawing in experiences. It's also everything that we're actually using. Somebody thought of it first before they created it.
Yeah. I've heard you say before, like manifestation for anything, whether it's love, health, money, what have you, it's like almost like you're placing the order with the, placing the order and then you're just waiting for it to arrive. I think that's such a great way to look at it. Like, and that makes it fun. Because it's like, I want this today. It's
supposed to be fun. Whatever religion you subscribe to, the creator wants you to have a good time. He was not down here to punish you.
Right.
So so basically the way that I look at it is that if you want to look at the universe, because unfortunately people get into spirituality, they think the universe is another entity that is judging them and telling them what they can and can't have. Look at the universe as the internet. If something, you see something bad on the internet, you don't blame the internet. It's just an algorithm. It's just an entity. So you get to program it what experience you have. So if you order something similar to Amazon, I want to experience, what it's like to have 50 grand in my bank account. And then you allow it to happen just like you allow Amazon to deliver it. You don't go and try to facilitate it yourself. That would be the equivalent of trying to intercept a package in Utah. And you're probably like, hey, I'm here. I had it delivered to Atlanta, but I'm here in Utah now. Can you give it to me? You're going to mess up the whole thing. So that's why you don't interfere with manifestation. That's why you don't interfere, because the system works perfectly without your input. So allow it to do so.
So this actually, I think, reading between the lines for those of you who are watching, I think it's important for you to hear what he's saying, that you don't need to worry about the how, basically.
No, you don't need to worry about
the when.
You only need to worry about the what.
Yeah.
The when, you can't dictate that. You can dictate the when. You can only dictate it if somebody else set the parameters to it. So if somebody else said this needs to get done by the 30th, then that wasn't set by you. Right. But that can happen. People can manifest on a timeline if the timeline was already set. Other than that, you only focus on the what. What do you want to experience? And then you allow it to happen. Because sometimes you could put something out like for next month, it could happen tomorrow.
Right.
But sometimes you can put something out, I want to have it tomorrow, but maybe you're not ready to have it now. You're going to go on a journey for a month or two to become the person that can keep that thing. Because also manifestation is about having. If you look at what a manifest actually is, it is a document that's on a ship. It goes back to maritime stuff, the maritime era. It's a document that's on a ship that explains what's on the ship, not what the ship is going to pick up, not what it dropped off, what's on the ship right now. So what the ship has. So manifestation is about having, not wanting, not receiving. It's about having. What do you have right now? So if you focus on that, then, by law, you have to experience it.
I love it. So if you focus on having financial freedom, then you already have financial freedom. If you focus on having your kids tuition paid, it's already happening, right? You just place an order and it's got to happen.
It got to happen. You just get out of the way. And by getting out of the way, you just enjoy what you already have. If you're watching this show now, you're not broke because you're on a computer. You're probably on an iPhone, MacBook, Android. You got an internet connection. You got money. So even in biblical scriptures, talk about the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. It's easier to manifest money for the rich because they already have money, so they're not worried about the money. So you already have the money. If you only have $100 in your bank account, you got $100. Be grateful for that $100, and then start to plant the seeds for that to grow, and visualize what it's like at the end when you have the 10 grand a month to 20 grand a month. But now you go on a journey to become the person that not only earns that, but the person who keeps it. Again, manifestation is about having. It's very easy to manifest something in and lose it 2 weeks later because you have to change who you are to keep it.
Yes, I love it. So on that note, I feel like that's a great place to wrap. Sean, do you have anything that I have not brought up that you feel like you just want to impart on the crew before we go?
I think we touched on everything, but just to impart on, manifestation is simply about becoming a better version of yourself. Everything is from within, and then the outside will reflect that. The outside is just a mirror reflecting who you truly are. So if you change the inside, the outside will change, and just always stay focused on yourself, and you can have heaven on earth.
I love it. I love that we can have heaven on earth. That's so exciting. It should be exciting for everybody watching.
Very exciting.
You can completely change, or even if it's already good, you can make it great. You can make your whole existence great just with your thoughts. So this has been super enlightening, Sean. I'm going to make sure I put your channel in the show notes, and everybody make sure that you go and follow Here Nor There. It has been a very beneficial channel for me. I can say that one of the things that I really love about your channel, Sean, is that you just get right to the point. You know, it's like we're not sitting there talking about a story, the backstory of your life story for like 40 minutes, and then you finally get to the point. Like it's 10, 15-minute videos in and out, right to the point. Yeah. And you get the nuts and bolts of what you need that you can actually put into practice. Everything is very actionable. And I love that. So you make it very easy. So thank you for your expertise, and I'm glad that you went through whatever you had to go through to get you to this point to success and what we do.
And thank you for this opportunity. You have a wonderful show. You have a wonderful brand. I'm glad to be a part of it. So thank you as well.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. Thank you again for watching the Get Money Show. I will catch you next week with another episode. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will talk to you soon. Peace.